education and networking, and I hope everybody had a good time so far. Well, I want to again thank everyone for coming out for our first tech conference in quite a long time. We're getting ready to move into a portion that actually is one of the ones I've been looking forward to since many months ago when we got some of the esteemed panelists that agreed to participate here. So we're really looking forward to this next session. It's going to be something very unique. And before we do that, I want to just kind of make a couple of comments on this. You know, a lot of times if you look at news reports and you read what's on in the media and everything, they consistently talk about how bad the golf industry is and how terrible the business golf is and how down it is across the board, and it's just a lot of doom and gloom. Well, as operators, we know it's not that bad. Golf's not imploding. It's not the end of the world. And one of the things that we're really doing right here is taking some input from what we're calling the new kids on the block. And these are people who have really made substantial investments recently in golf. And these aren't just anybody. These are industry leaders. These are people who are very knowledgeable, people who are very intelligent, highly successful business people who have got insight into what the future of golf is. So what we really wanted to do, we wanted to bring together a panel, and since we're talking about technology, and a lot of technology, we're kind of looking into the future. We wanted to bring together this panel for you so we can kind of get some insights in from them as to why did they invest in golf? Why are they making this huge investment in golf? Why are they looking forward to where golf potentially is going? So we're going to have some fun times after this as well. We're going to go to Topgolf. And to really moderate this panel, we're going to turn back to my co-chair here, Mike Zisman. And Mike is really the perfect guy to really kind of lead this in terms of the discussion with our panelists and everything here. We're going to go through some questions and answers with them. We're going to open up, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask some questions and everything of our panelists as well. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and I want to kind of let you know, those of you who aren't familiar with him, why he is the perfect guy to lead this conversation. Prior to founding Golf Genius, he was founder and CEO of SoftSwitch. He was CEO of the Lotus Development Corporation and a senior executive at IBM. SoftSwitch, founded in 1979, was one of the very first companies to participate in the electronic mail industry. And Mike's regarded as a pioneer in the field of email. So you can kind of see somebody with that background that's already involved in golf as much as he is really kind of a great guy to lead these gentlemen here in the discussion about what's going to happen with the future of golf. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mike. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dell. Thank you. First, I want to observe that this is the last session of the last day of a conference and the room is full. I've never seen it. That either says you're all very interested or the last session is Topgolf. We're standing between you and Topgolf. Well, I'm delighted to see so many people here. Let me introduce the panel in alphabetical order. I have some questions, but hopefully all the questions will come from you. And we'll get started. So let me, in alphabetical order, Maury Gallagher, CEO of Allegiant Airlines. Jeff Gerttula, Senior VP and GM of CBS, Sports Digital. Greg Norman, you may recognize, Greg Norman Company. Andy Rhodes, CEO of USGA, who I've had the pleasure of working with for a number of years. And Lance Stover, who's the Senior VP of Licensing and New Ventures of the PGA Tour. So Dell actually stole some of my words, as people often do. I was going to remark, have a seat guys, please sit down. I was going to remark that when I started coming to these shows, say 3 or 4 years ago, NGF and DCOA, et cetera, you know, when I first started doing it, it was like, my wife would say, how were they? I would say it was doom and gloom. It's like, you know, participation's down, the courses are pricing's getting commoditized, courses are closing left and right. It was kind of depressing, but you don't see that today. I mean, there just seems to be a lot of vim and vigor in the industry, so it's great to see, and I think for good reason. I think supply and demand has pretty much reached equilibrium. We're seeing good participation, great youth golf programs, etc. So let me start out with some questions, and again, I hope that you'll participate. Greg, I want to start with you. You've seen it all. You've seen it from the perspective of a world-class professional golfer and a world-class entrepreneur in the golf industry. And as I recall, some time ago, you drew an analogy between golf and the ski industry when it changed so dramatically with the onslaught of snowboarders in the 90s. Could you expand on that a little bit and what your sense of it is?
Yeah, certainly I can. And everybody here, thank you very much. And thanks for having us as panelists up here. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, to say the least, and I might even pick up a few things myself. But in relation to that, Michael, I think it goes back when I had a place in Vail, Colorado. My kids were growing up, and one of them was a skier and one of them was a snowboarder. You invest a lot of money in a place to buy it, in a town to buy it, because you want to go somewhere for a holiday that the family can experience. Well, lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, that my son was a big snowboarder. Snowboarding wasn't allowed in Vail on their slopes back in those days. And I started thinking about that was probably one of the dumbest moves anybody could ever make. Because if you actually want to grow an industry, you got to grow it through the family, as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to go, the family's going to go away for a holiday, and one of my children cannot enjoy that sport or that location because their passion's been taken away from them, you're going to go somewhere else. I subsequently sold the place because we weren't having a good time with the family. So when I look at the golf industry and the evolution of the golf industry, where are we today? In a lot of ways, we want to bring the millennials and the Gen Zers back. How do we bring them back? You bring them back through mom and dad. I'd rather go out there with my son, or now my grandson, or my granddaughter in a couple of years, and play with them. But you've got to be able to give them a reason to go out there, and not really alienate them to what we have or have been through over the years. So I look at that analogy and I use it a lot because I think if we all sit back as parents, and I'm sure most of us in this room here are parents, if we have that capability of giving access for our children to enjoy the sport. And I'm passionate about golf. I want to grow the industry as much as anybody else wants to grow the industry, not just here in the U.S., but all around the world. So I look down, I look to where we can actually pull these young kids up and out and get it back out on the golf course.
Thank you, Greg. I think there's some rumors floating around that on the entrepreneurial side, you're going to be making some announcements on November 1st, but you promised me you would actually pre-announce it right here today. So you get that right, Greg?
I know you got that totally wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm partnered up with Verizon, just a little overview here. I'm not going to announce what it is, but it's something that, well, it was virgin space that was in the golf industry that nobody else had ever capitalized on. My friend in front row here, my partner David Chess and I looked at this space and we said, okay, why hasn't anybody captured this space? And it's a lot easier to recognize something like in the virgin space, but it's so hard to build a model around virgin space that's never been done before. So we've been fortunate enough to partner up with Verizon. Some of the Verizon folks in the back, and one right here in front is Mike Toto. And this relationship has been just an incredible one of unlocking ideas, thought processes for the pure goal of growing the game of golf and giving something back to the game of golf. It's never been done before. So we're going to announce it November the 1st in New York City, and we're going to market early part of next year.
Well, I'm devastated you chose not to announce it. But we'll live with it. Let me switch topics a little bit. Lance, from the PGA Tour, what are you seeing now in terms of tour interest, TV viewership? How do you measure it, and what's the general sense of it?
Yeah, the PGA Tour, fortunately, is, I think, in a very good position today, and we're seeing a lot of very positive signs from the end consumer. Certainly, the PGA Tour is getting very consumer-centric. It is a very competitive marketplace out there from a media perspective. You've got screens everywhere. I've got 6-year-old twins, and their favorite device is not the TV, which is how it was when we were growing up. Fortunately, viewership is actually up at the PGA Tour. If you look at the last 5 years versus the prior 5 years, what you see are ratings are more or less flat, but there's more hours out there, and consumption is really a key metric. And then we're seeing exploding metrics on our PGA Tour digital properties, which include PGAtour.com, #1 site out there in golf, and some of our social media channels, which we continue to invest in and getting great content out there. Just as one example where we're getting more progressive on the technology front is, for a long while we prohibited consumers from bringing their phones out to events. discourage photographs and videography, and now we're encouraging that. And we've seen some really great stories circulate over just the last month when you've got a kid, just right next to a player and just being just in awe of how guys like Gallagher are able to hit the ball 300 yards off the tee box. So we're really encouraged by the state of our business, the consumer side, the sponsorship side, our ventures, including Easy Links, a PGA Tour affiliate company, and most certainly charity. Tour donates more than $170 million annually to charity through the tournaments that we serve. So we're very proud of that and proud about the direction of the tour going forward under Commissioner Monahan's leadership.
Can I just say something, Michael? I think it's absolutely fantastic the PGA Tour has done that, because when I played on the PGA Tour on a full-time basis, to me, I wish I had social media back then in those days, because there's no better feeling, as far as I'm concerned, than connecting with your fan base. And if you can connect with your fan base through whatever device, whichever opportunity you have, that's going to grow the game, because everybody's interested. You're a public figure. And every time I played the game of golf, people felt like they could reach through the TV screen and grab hold of you and on a piece of you. Now you can give it back to them by being involved in social media. And I think the PGA has really done a tremendous job of that, especially allowing phones on the golf course. They don't make a noise when you take a photograph nowadays, but I compliment them on doing that. Well done.
It's a great point, and I think, Lance, the term you use is key for all of us, is engagement. You have to be able to engage the audience. And it is unbelievable the impact that social media has had on that. And when you think about it, I can think back to it was actually a long time ago now, the mid-90s when I was at IBM, and we were saying, what is this social media thing? In fact, honest to God, I remember Lou Gershner, who was absolutely brilliant CEO, I had the chance to work with him, said, why would anyone want to look at a computer when there are ads? Why would anyone do that? And I said, Lou, you know that newspaper you call the Wall Street Journal? It has ads, right? Yeah, you're right. So engagement is incredibly important. Andy, from a USGA perspective, I know you're very focused on engagement. What do the stats tell you, and what are your plans?
The stats that we look at to understand how healthy the game is are related to our GIN app. So for those of you that are golfers and have a handicap, you record your score in GIN, the Golf Handicap Information Network. Over the last 5 years, the number of rounds posted in GIN has stayed relatively static. About 50 million rounds a year posted in GIN. On a busy Saturday in June or July, we'll take 250,000 score postings on a Saturday, and that's stayed pretty consistent over the last 5 years, which tells us there's a core group of golfers that remain very much engaged in the game, which is great. And as I said, that's been pretty static. What we've seen, though, in the last 4 years or so is a dramatic increase in engagement with GIN on digital tools. So we launched our first mobile app 2012, and since then there's been a dramatic increase in mobile score postings and score lookup, to the point where just last year the combination of mobile and GIN.com digital reached about 50% of our total score postings, which has been a dramatic uptick. My bet this year is that we'll see more than 50% posted digitally, which tells me that people want to engage with the game with digital tools, and I think that's the delta now, or that's what's changed, and that's the opportunity for us, as we said, is to leverage digital tools to engage with our golfers. Secondarily, we've also seen tremendous uptick in our digital platforms, usopen.com and USGA.org. In fact, we get tremendous viewership of the US Open on USGA.org, particularly on Thursdays and Fridays when people are probably at the office and probably should do that thing. But we see tremendous viewership there, which we believe is great for the game.
I agree. It's interesting when you talk about the shift from kiosk to web or mobile. I know at my own club, I would say even as recently as 2 years ago, the philosophy was, no, you should post your score immediately after the round on a kiosk. And we had 3 of them. Yeah. One in the men's locker room and 2 in other areas. And it was really frowned upon to do anything else. Now, Danny and I had lunch, I was saying, I can't remember the last time I saw anyone at the kiosk. This wouldn't even happen because everyone moves to, I'm just going to go home and enter my scores. I know in my case, it's not so much fun. I'm going to go home, I'm just going to be on gin.com and in the scores for the week. So it has been a radical transformation. It's great to see. And, you know, it's interesting, again, you know, when we had the U.S. Open at Marion in 2013, the ability to have that mobile app and see what was going on was, you know, and you step back and say, well, why would you ever discourage that, right? What's going on? And yet that's where we were, right? Jeff, speaking of stats and viewership, can you kind of log in here with CBS Sports, and what you're seeing and what your view is?
Yeah, sure. So our interest in what we're seeing, I think, it really breaks down to this. So I'm in the business of collecting eyeballs through content and converting those eyeballs into engagement, which we monetize, and that's the machine. That's how I make money for CBS. The golf space is interesting. We reach 70 million fans. We're the second biggest sports property, and we index more than any other of the competitive set in golfers. So because of the CBS Sports heritage, because of the broadcast strength of the Masters, the PGA Championship, and all the PGA Tour events, we reach a high percentage of golfers with our broad reach. So we've had an interest in, okay, so what do we do with this audience to engage them further beyond the traditional stats and stories and the typical content that we create to bring people in. And when we look at golf space, we see significant stability with the number of rounds being booked, and we see what we think is an immature space on the golf booking side that we think we can bring value in. So we saw that, and we're like, well, you know what, we're pretty good at converting these strengths, like in fantasy football. We have a big fantasy football business. We convert into games. In March Madness, where we have strength, we have a huge bracket presence, which we've converted into engagement in the app side. So we've had a lot of success, and golf remains one of these where we have this engaged audience. What do we do with this audience? We met the guys at Golf Book, Gene and the crew here, and we believed in their model and their vision, and we believed in the team, and we saw that as potentially perfect fit for our golf audience and a way to engage them. So we see the golf space still as there's a lot of opportunity still to grow. We think that there's a lot of digital benefits that can come to the golf industry, and we're hoping that with our strengths combined with the Golf Book team, that we're going to be able to help grow the game of golf. So that's, yeah.
Well, growing the game is something we all think about a lot. And I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll just repeat it. There's about 25 million golfers in the U.S., roughly speaking, kind of stabilized. There's about 465 million rounds played. If every golfer played just one more round a year, we would move participation by 5%. One more round a year doesn't seem like a lot, right? If we focus on it and drive that sort of participation. And I personally, I'm thrilled to see the efforts in youth golf, driven by the PGA and others. Incredible growth in PGA youth leagues right now, and in women's golf. Those are the two places to go. That's the low-hanging fruit in terms of growing the game, and we need to be more welcoming, in my opinion, to do that. Golf can be a very intimidating game when you show up the first time and you have no idea what to do, and you can have one bad experience and you just wrote that person off forever. So we really need to work at it.
Mike, just to chime in on that one, on the growth of the game, which I think is something that we all have a common interest in stakeholder desire to advance. I mean, it's in fact one of the trifold missions of the tour. It's about the players, it's about charity and growth of the game. And I think in one of the earlier panels we talked about the tee time industry, and only 16% of those bookings currently done online. So we certainly welcome Golf Book and others to this stage to really help you, the courses, be able to reach consumers in new and different ways. In fact, it's one of the reasons why EasyLinks chose to kind of move with no booking fees. Let's remove the friction of the transaction, allow consumers to be able to access that inventory, and really be able to kind of move this industry more toward where restaurants have gone and some of the travel industry.
Right.
And growth of the game is incredibly important to the tour, and that's both on the course side and the consumer side. That balance, we think, is incredibly important.
Thank you for that. It's interesting. I look at golf. I had some charts yesterday. I used to say there's professional golf, what Greg used to do, and golf as a game. So golf as a sport and golf as a game. We now see golf as entertainment. I think that's my takeaway from the Top Golf's many incredible successes. Is golf as entertainment. But when you think about it, there aren't very many sports that have both a very active professional side and a very active, I'll call it amateur side. Golf, tennis, right? Tennis is very similar in that respect. And then, there aren't that many people who, when you're a kid, you play a lot of baseball. There aren't that many adults that play baseball like they play golf or even play hockey. There's some, but nowhere near, the volumes here. So golf is kind of unique, and it's great to see when you can say, I want to use professional golf to drive interest in what I'll call amateur golf, right? I mean, that's a huge impact, and I think it's one of the things that has contributed to the game. Maury, you jumped into the golf industry with T-Snap. What interested a travel company and an airline company about the golf space?
Well, that's a good question. No, seriously, we travel company. We fly airplanes, and I like to think of us as an IT company that happens to fly airplanes, happens to invest in golf, because today's world with customers is where the game's played. You look at any of the top people that are exploding and doing things, Amazon being the #1 issue. I like to describe Amazon as kind of a ceiling with all that personal information. All you have your personal Amazon account where you keep everything about yourself, right? Your credit cards, you want to send a book to Joe or your wife or your spouse or whatever. All that sits up there, and all those pillars underneath it are what? Those are all the companies that work through that. And what's in that top layer? It's data, right? With a capital D. And if you're in business today and you don't understand your customer, someone else is going to take that customer away from you. And you all are in the data business first and foremost, because that 465 million people, they all have a profile. They're going to play a course A one time, they're going to play a course B. One of the things I kind of cringe at is we talk to people, and this is outside the golf business, my guys are my guys, I'm not sharing. Listen, people, that data is universal, it's water, it moves wherever it needs to go. And the idea is that golf, you are all, frankly, a lot of small businesses. If you look at an analogy, this is Century 21 before the real estate business, before all the Century 21s came along and franchised it and made it, put a national branding thing to it and all those. So one of the things as a small business, you don't have a lot of resources. And what we saw as a company, and part of, again, I want to be involved with that travel person, that golfer that lives in Michigan or Indiana or wherever and wants to go to Florida or Phoenix or whatever. That customer flies on airplanes, that customer plays golf, that customer goes to baseball games, that customer, I'm in the NASCAR business too, goes to races. They've got all these different things, and our goal long term is to build a business around leisure and leisure travel. And it first and foremost starts with a tool set that you can get to the customer, knowing what the customer and who the customer is, and then having places they go. You can't replace the physicality of the world and events such as going to a golf course with playing this. There's only so much you can do with this, and people want to get outside. And the growth, which you'd be surprised at, I think a lot of people are, events are growing like crazy. They're not watching TV anymore. My kids don't have television. They're dropping cable. ESPN's lost 14 million subscribers over the last 5 years. They're predicted to be from 100 million down to the mid-70s in the next 5 or 6 years. They pay $1.9 billion a year for Monday Night Football. That's $100 million a game. And when you lost 30% of your viewing audience, what do you think you're going to pay for that the next time? So there's a whole revolution coming with television and advertising that's going to start hitting in the next 3, 4 years. But that event world, concerts, guess where kids are going? They're all going to concerts. You know why? Music's free. My kid hasn't paid for a piece of music, and I give him grief. Somebody made, you're supposed to buy that. Hell, I get it free everywhere. But you can't, you want the live event, you got to go to the event. And so that's the kind of evolution that's going on. And you guys are the ultimate event business, but you got to improve the product, I think. I went out to play a member guest here on Saturday, 6 hours. Come on. And they won't say no to having all these people come on. We played in the 6th one. It's just, and furthermore, if you do one thing, quit putting all the damn greens up at 14. And
come on, Maury.
This guy here can play on 14 because they play it every week. You want to have fun out there. Leave it be 10 and 11. Hey, personal opinion.
strongly about it.
I do. You can't make a putt all freaking weekend, you know? But, no, seriously, you're in the business of events. You need to attract that new customer. I'm going away. That younger group is coming up, and I think they'll come to golf. I think one of the great things we've done, or we're seeing in Topgolf, is introducing kids to golf at a level that they go out and they can have fun at it. They can play it for an hour and go away. Well, there'll be a certain percentage of those that will get intrigued, I think, by going, you know, want to play the real thing. So those are positives, and to Mike's point, the golf business is not dead. We're very interested in being in it long term, and it's all part of our travel product. And we're bringing an IT product we think is second to none. And we're bringing you data, we're helping you market, and we also think of you as our partner. I think that's the other thing. There's three people. Anytime you have a three-party relationship, it's usually going to be two against one. And so it's the IT provider or that tool provider, it's the golf course and the customer. We like to think we're your partner, and that customer is, we're working behind the scenes helping you get that customer. So that's my good.
I think it's great. I just want to reinforce a couple things that you said because I strongly agree with what you said. Number one is the word fun. Golf should be fun. 6-hour rounds are not fun. I belong to a little club in New Jersey, it's semi-private, and I'm sure you've all experienced, you know, some guy shows up at the Jersey Shore, plays golf once or twice a year. Well, what's wrong with 6 hours? I mean, I paid, what's wrong with that? And everyone behind him is going nuts. And it's buggy. You want to be on the 8th green on that course, right? And it's not fun anymore. So pace of play, which the USGA has been on for a long time, incredibly important. Incredibly important. And your point about events, it's good. People, I mean, to your point, why do kids go to concerts? I said, people want to go places to be with people who do what they like to do. You know, the best place to watch baseball is in your den on TV. People go to baseball stadiums because they want to be with people who do what they like to do. And the characterization of defense is interesting. Let me get to this question because you raised the point about sort of age. The National Golf Foundation, which I think does a great job of doing the research and reporting around the industry, and I sort of view them as that's the numbers I look to. So they report that there were 6.3 million golfers in 2016 between the ages of 18 and 34. That's about 25% of U.S. golfers. Most of these folks are what I call web natives or born on the web. Right? So for my 16-year-old daughter, it's always been this way. You know, one time, a couple months ago, we were at the mall and one of these LCD displays, and I'm looking at it and I says, well, it doesn't show where we're going. And she looks at it, she's like this. Daddy, you just put your thumb down and move it. You know, I mean, or in case, well, I don't know, your kid look at like you're nuts because you don't know how to do what they think is the most basic things. And to your point, Maury, every day there's fewer and fewer of us and more of them. Every single day there's more and more people who what we call millennials, what I call web natives, and fewer of us, right? Because I personally don't plan to die, but most of you will. Right? So my question is, what do you do differently with that demographic? You know, what do you do differently to meet their needs, to do things that they expect and sometimes even demand? I mean, like, you know, we still have a rule, and I'm on the board of Marion Golf Club, and it drives me nuts. We don't allow cell phones on the course. And some people look at like, what do you mean? Like I'm, you know, these people, and I'm the same way. Like, I don't know myself. Oh my God, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Oh my God. So how do you think? You know, what are your ideas, or what do you think? What's different, and how do you meet the needs of that growing demographic? And I'd like to hear from all of you or any of you. Anyone want to start?
I can start. Well, first off, this is the problem that's universal right now, right? The internet is disrupting every industry in this way that you're not competing really against each other, you're competing against everything else, right? That you're competing with every other activity that an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old would do. That's TV's in the same issue, have the same problems. Every industry's having this problem. So at its core, I think of it as to even have a chance, you have to, one, it has to be as frictionless as possible. It has to be easy, and it has to feel free. Whether it's free on the internet, that's another story, but it has to be really simple and really free. User experience, just the whole, from kind of first moment that you touch the person to all the way through, it has to be easy. That's one. Two, it has to be mobile. If it's not on their phone, you're not where their eyeballs are. right? So it absolutely has to be. If you think that a young audience is going to start picking up phones and calling and showing up here, it's not going to happen, right? It has to be mobile. That's 2. And then 3, it's just got to be on the other side. It has to be fun. I think that's going to just take just thinking through that user experience. But even when you do all that, there's a lot of work to do. And this is really kind of, I look at as the existential challenge of every industry right now, because young audiences are not at all like we were. And that's every aspect of entertainment that for all parts of their day. So yeah, it's tough, but you definitely got to start there.
Your point.
I'll add 2 things to
Go
that.
ahead.
2 words, cashless and connectivity. To what you're saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You go to a theme park anywhere, it's cashless, right? You get a van, you go through, you have fun with your kids, you're not worrying about carrying a bunch of money with you, and at the end of the day, you come out of there with your family, you go, okay, this is how much I owe. Makes it so much easier, just what you're saying. And the other thing is connectivity, that device you're talking about. Everybody's connected to somewhere, somehow, to something across the board. So if you can add those 2 as well, you're going to make it a lot easier for people as well.
I would add maybe one more thing, Mike, to that is I think consumers now expect to have a choice. Right? They expect to be able to engage in the terms that they want, in which they want to engage. You all do it, right? We all do it. I do it. We expect to be able to engage in a variety of ways, depending on where we are that day, or how what we're interested in buying, or what we're interested in engaging with. And I think as an industry, we've got to create those opportunities to allow people to engage on their terms. Otherwise, people will find other things to do and other things to engage in. And I think that's an opportunity, and I think it's an opportunity for golf to learn some lessons from other industries that have done that. And I think the theme park is a great example of how they've done that. You give folks an opportunity to engage in a cashless way if they want to, and go to make reservations for particular rides, get in the fast line for rides and things like that. And it is all by the.
No, I just reinforce a couple terms here. Jeff's word about frictionless is incredibly important. People, you have too much friction, go do something, find something that has less friction. And the other point that Jeff made that I sort of lived through my people today, we are all competing. We're all competing for that precious resource in individual that's called leisure time. And they could be playing golf, they could be going to a theme park, they could be going to a concert, and watch a movie. And that it's a different world because they have access to so many things. For a number of years, I was on the board of the Philadelphia Orchestra. Orchestras in general, and the Philadelphia Orchestra, probably still considered one of the top 5 orchestras in the world, is going like this. Why is it going like this? Because typically orchestras and other organizations really lived on subscriptions. I'm going to convince you, Andy, right now to sign up for 16 concerts. Because people don't do that anymore. We are not willing to make commitments 6 months out. People just don't do it. And so when you move from subscriptions to an event at a time, let me tell you something, it's a really hard business. So, and Greg, to your point about cashless and connectivity, the word I would add, and I said yesterday, is photography. It's amazing. I mean, a billion photographs taken every day. Instagram, kids live on Instagram, right? So they're not on Facebook anymore. That's for all of us folks, right? To talk to our grandkids and stuff. And I joked around yesterday, I believe it, to most kids, if it wasn't photographed, it didn't actually happen. Any other comments, more anything you want to add?
Well, I think the critical thing for this audience is how do you not only stay the same, but go up? You know, how do you get more customers through the door? You have seasonality issues, the summer months versus if you're in a cold climate winter and things like that. And to the extent that there's first and foremost, you've got a customer that shows up probably, 80-20 rule, 80% of your business is from 20% of the people, 25%. How do you take care of that business right there? Don't lose that business. How do you cater to them? How do you make sure and that's technology. One of the things we introduced, and I insisted when we did it, is we force an email address to be put into the system. Nothing personal against some of your guys, but the guy running the ticket counter is running the business. I don't want to do it. I don't have time. Really? That's your freaking business. You got to know who those people are so you can talk to them. And so you can't run our system. I wouldn't let that rule down. You cannot run our system without putting that data in there. So all of a sudden, they wake up and you've got 5,000 names in there, and you can talk to these people because you got data. You know when they play last, Guy hasn't been out for 2 weeks, you can send him a, $10 off. That's the way you talk to a customer today. So first take care of what you got, and then you gotta be inventive of how you get some other people. One of the things, I come from the airline business, why do you always have to play 18 holes, and why do you always have to play the same holes in the same routine? Dale Aviaga up in Santa Cruz has got this really inventive thing. You get a scorecard, you can play a 3-hole round, you can play 1, 7, and 6, they come back to the clubhouse, or you can play a 6-hole round, or you can do, you get a nice little algorithm that sets your course up, and you can schedule that type of thing. And now all of a sudden, you've got a varied product offer. It doesn't have to be 18 holes and 5.5 hours. God help if you play a non-public or a public course. If anybody's played golf, you're just mentally saying 5.5 hours, you got an hour ahead of time, got to get to the range, drink, the family, the family's not going to put up with that stuff. So if you continue the same thing and you expect this changes, what's that little definition of crazy? That's what it is. So you've got to be innovative, you've got to come up with some things to get through. One of the things that is the rule changes that are coming, I'm totally excited about is ready golf. I guess amateur USAM next year or the year after is ready golf. You get your ball, you hit it. And all of a sudden that person that's really slow is going to go, let's go back here. I mean, those are the kinds of things, and God, we're creatures of habit. We watch television and Greg's of the world, and we all got to light our putts up and all that stuff. If you ever go and play in Scotland where they didn't have all that stuff, you play a game in 2.5 hours over there. If you played an average game here, people say 4 hours 15, 4 hours 30. That's a good time. That's not a good time, people. It should be 3 hours 15, in my opinion. You get people through, it just will change the whole game, and you've got to start the retraining side. It's a harsh lesson, but personal opinion on my side. Guys like me, I'm too damn, I'm just impatient. I just, not to say I won't play.
So the defense of some of these golf courses were designed in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
They were too spread out. Right. And when you play golf in Ireland, Scotland, you walk off the green right on the tee.
Right, absolutely.
So you have to take that into consideration as well too. But the fastest guy I ever played golf was President Bush 41. You talk about ready golf. If you didn't play in under an hour and a half, you're done. So when you think about the leader of the free world who get out there and spend his time on the golf course, which he absolutely loved, he would leave you behind. That's what it's like. So I think that's a great goal.
Think about the impact of the economics of the industry if you could improve pace of play that dramatically. But what's interesting, and Harvey here should be smiling because his business is about, I only want to play 3 holes or 4 holes. But it's interesting, the question you ask is, that would be a radical change in golf, right? I mean, today we had you play 9, you play 18. That's the way it is, right? Maybe you play 6. But if the technology would allow you to come in and say, no, I want to play 4 holes, because you really need the technology to be able to schedule it out. So the technology allows you to do that. One of the sessions today, a fellow was talking about the fact that with cart GPS systems, you can go, that cart is behind, and I'm going to move him here, because there's nothing more frustrating than being behind a slow course when it's 100 degrees and it's a buggy day, right? And as you point out, my family is, I will be home by 4 o'clock. Well, it is 4 o'clock. So to me, it's a good example of technology. Can technology allow you to make radical changes in the game so that you can play the holes you play? I know where I play, for example, people show up and they'll play 14 through 18 and then come in and have a burger. Or they'll play 1 through 13 and come in. So I think these are the things that can really change things. Getting back, we were talking about millennials. So you can't talk about millennials without talking about Topgolf. As I said earlier, I think of Topgolf as entertainment. Reinvented golf as entertainment. It's entertainment, and golf is sort of the vehicle to do it. So I would be interested in your perspective on that. One is, and I think someone mentioned you, Greg, is Topgolf the incubation for a generation of golfers? Do people transition from Topgolf to real golf, as my kids used to call it, or is it just a different segment? Anybody?
Well, I'll pick up this one first. I think Topgolf has just been a blessing to the game of golf, quite honestly. I think they're very innovative. It's fun, right? The world of hitting on is fun. You can go out there and you can have a little bit of gaming about it. You can get drunk. You can listen to music. You can have a great time. And, look, I can tell you, I think in 3 years ago, I played more Topgolf facilities than I played golf courses. Because I was just intrigued by it. I liked the opportunity, and everywhere I went somewhere, there was a Topgolf facility, we went to take a look at it. obviously you take a look at it to see why it's so successful and what ideas you can take away from them. But I think it is just phenomenal to be able to see that. And everybody's got their device. They're taking one of those billions of photographs on a daily basis and having fun with their videos and sending it off to their friends around the world. So, I think whether we see the transition from people who have never played the game of golf and go to a top golf facility for the first time and dribble the ball up the mat into some score zone, whether we get them to the golf course, that'll be the interesting one. Because if we can make that crossover where they have all their devices and all their connectivity, and they can have all their fun, and they're listening to their music, if we can take all that philosophy, somehow meld it onto the golf course, without people who are stuck in the box thinking it's not the right place to be, then we'll get them transitioning over to the golf course.
5 to 7 years ago, the general thinking in the media space, and Jeff, you can testify to this, is that you couldn't put any content out digitally because that was going to take away from the TV audience. And when you actually look at the data, the digital consumption actually spurs on greater television consumption. And I think similarly with Topgolf, a ton of credit to them for almost inventing golf entertainment. And it is flat out fun. And it was one of the reasons why the PGA Tour, along with the LPGA, chose to enter into a strategic alliance with Topgolf on how to grow the game. Because as the NGF has reported, the numbers in terms of sort of this non-traditional golf experience has gone up 8 million, 9 million, 10 million each of the last 3 years. And we firmly believe that you get the club into somebody's hand, you introduce that game in a more fun manner, and lo and behold, over time, hopefully they become participants on green grass courses, and then furthermore, they become viewers on our different platforms. And certainly, it's a great example of innovation and technology in the industry today.
Well, you all had the chance to become Topgolf. What are the 2 ingredients of Topgolf? They have a restaurant/booze. Who doesn't have booze in this crowd? Everybody's got a beer concession. See one of these? You can become Topgolf overnight. You take a bunch of 20-year-olds wouldn't be sitting down drinking and hitting there. They don't have to be playing the U.S. Open course, but let them play a course. Put 3 or 4 of those there. You get a party atmosphere. You got to try stuff, folks. You got to try stuff. And that 20-year-old won't come out and perhaps play the game, but they'll have a party and they'll do this stuff. And plus they'll bring some friends along or like little kibitz, that type of stuff. So those are I encourage you to kind of think outside the box and, we've got to invest some capital to do it. But, that thing right there is pretty revolutionary.
We'll have a chance to see Topgolf tonight. What's interesting, as an entrepreneur, what I find interesting, if you talk about Topgolf and say, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. It's brilliant. That company struggled for a long time. It was founded in the UK. It struggled for a long time, as I call zigged and zagged, until they found the sweet spot. But they had the persistence to keep doing it. A lot of people would have given up. I give them a lot of credit. I'd ask all of you, does anyone have a thought on, is it the seed corn? Do people, what I find interesting is Topgolf is golf in a very non-intimidating way. Doesn't matter how far you hit the ball. I'm imagining, because I'm actually going to go to Topgolf facility for the first time tonight. But it's very non-intimidating, and what I find, what a lot of people tell me when they go to a golf course the first time is, it is intimidating. Sometimes, frankly, things as simple as there's not good signage on the course of where to get to the next hole. And then you find out you're on the wrong hole, and someone's looking at you like you're crazy, but there was no sign, right? So I would ask, does anyone have a point of view on this? Do you think Topgolf, by less intimidating, creates an environment that will foster people coming into the game? Yes?
I think it is because you don't have to know.
Here's a mic coming. Is a mic coming?
Yes,
I just bring in a mic. Holly, I'm sorry.
I think it's really welcoming and almost neighborly for novice golfers because it allows them to experience the basics of the game without feeling the pressure of, like you said, directions on how to get around the course, knowing specifically, where to get a putter or what is a putter or specific rules of golf. And in that way, it also speeds up the play of the game. So I think it is a good introduction in that sense.
Thank you.
I have a question for the audience, right? I'm assuming you all play golf, right? Yeah. How many people in here have gone to a Topgolf facility? Okay, vast majority. How many people in that facility, when you went there, drank a couple of beers? Or had a glass of wine or wine? Okay, of the same percentage, how many people, when you go play the golf course, at your golf course, do exactly the same thing? Probably way down. Okay, there's the example of having fun at a top golf facility and having fun compared to having fun on a golf course. Because why? On an 18-hole golf course, we are so stuck in our old habits and old ways that this is the way it should have been, and this is the way we've got to keep doing it. If we can get our head out of our butts, and have a little bit of fun, then you'll all hold the hands that go up, and we'll have a couple of cocktails going around on 18-hole golf.
We certainly.
And play better golf too.
First of all, Mr. Norman.
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
I have a feeling you really want to play golf, by the way, for many reasons. But one of the things that I have found interesting, taking kind of a cue from the bowling industry, is they turn on the fog lights, the sound, the music, they took some dead leaves and created space for the younger generation to bowl Sunday night. But my brother's a golf professional also, and he and I, we between the two of us have 8 kids. And every time we get them together on a golf course, they fight, they slow down, they're too loud. We find ourselves trying to shush them. And we look at each other and we got to figure out a $20 way for them to have a good time for an hour. And he goes, what struck me that we hadn't thought about is what really changed in the bowling industry were the bumpers.
The bumpers, I was just going to say that.
Now my 5-year-old who can't get it halfway down the deal without a bumper, he's jumping up and down in the cartwheels when the pins fall.
Right. So do you, I was going to bring it up, so do you know when bumpers were introduced to bowling? They weren't there when I was a kid. I mean, I think the past 15 years maybe? It was a radical change, right? The other point is that bowling, the equivalent of Top Golf in bowling is Lucky Strike. I don't know if you have them in your city, but Lucky Strike was, hey, we're going to make, it's date night and it's Senator Robbie Greg's Point drinking and stuff like that. So it's fascinating. Bowling, there are some lessons to be learned.
Like the gentleman over there
Yes.
said-
Does someone here have a question on the mic? Go ahead.
I grabbed the microphone, sorry, I'll hand it off. The other thing about Top Golf, and Greg, I think it builds on your point, is the music. And I know a lot of people in here that run courses have seen their golfers start to bring personal devices to the course. I've started that, so I've got my cell phone in one hand, personal device usually in the basket behind me. The card partner and I agree on what we're going to blare, for the 18 holes, and just hope you have enough battery life. And these days, it seems the devices have done it. When Jeff, so I'm with Golf Book, and when Jeff from CBS came to us and started to look at the business, you actually heard it in the earlier seminar. Somebody said, "Do we really need 3 booking entities in the industry?" Kind of irked me when somebody said that, because I thought, well, what's different about Golf Book, and why is Golf Book like music to Top Golf or music at the golf course? And it's that when I go to Top Golf, I bring friends. Last time I was in Vegas, we had 8 people. We rotated in and out of the suite, ordered a bunch of appetizers, had a great time. Drinks were flowing, right? Just like you said, Greg. That's the idea of what people want in a golf course as well. And I think your comment about if people play one more round of golf, I don't want to go to a tee time anymore that is not filled. I want to pull up my phone, book the time, invite the 5 or 10 contacts that are right in my mobile device, fill that time up, and go build a Top Golf experience on the course. That's what it is.
Great point. Was there another comment, someone?
Well, it's just that question. We all agree that we're in the entertainment business now. Golf course design brings to you, Mr. Norman. What are you thinking forward to do in a golf course design to make it easier, make it more fun for golfers? Because the traditional golf course design is hard. How do we make it more friendly so that we can, do different tee boxes or whatever? Are you thinking on that as a golf course designer these days?
Oh, absolutely we do. We're always trying to think about ways about how we can speed up the game. Now, in defense of the golf course design industry and all the other designers out there, almost 100% of the time when we have to go ask to design a golf course, it's under certain criteria that the owner or the developer wants. And it's amazing how you can sit down there in the preliminary discussions and you'll ask a simple question. Do you plan having a tournament here of any capacity? PGA Tour event, amateur event? They all say yes. So now you're all deciding for what reason years they want to do this thing. And it may never ever happen, but they have this delusion of grandeur to create this golf course for PGA Tour players to come in there. So now when you actually sit down there and you walk them through the process about logistics, right, from televisions, OB units, right, you've got to come in, all the cabling runs, you've got to run through there, underground the system, you go through the whole system, they still want to do it. That's absolutely crazy. Now, I'm not going to tell him what to do with his money. I can only suggest and give him ideas or her idea about what you can and you can't don't do. And then you discuss them about, okay, your annual maintenance costs are going to be X. These are basically, you know, the threshold, the number, and that's the type of golf course they want to build, right? So you give them that. You multiply that out over 20 years. It's a big number. So you got to try and get it in their head early enough. Our responsibility, the easiest thing in the world as a golf course designer is to build the hardest golf course in the world. That is so easy. Anybody in this room can do it. Right? To build a golf course where a person who can only carry the ball 80 yards through the air and wants to finish every hole on that golf course without a force carry, and then challenge a guy who can hit any amateur here, can hit the ball 300 yards, if they hit the ball 300 yards, how do you challenge them as well as the person hitting the ball 80 yards? That's the hardest thing in the world to do. And if you get the balance right, therefore you know, figure out how to speed up play. And going to what I said with Maury before about golf courses designed in Ireland and England and Scotland and places and in Australia, to build a golf course today where you walk right off the green, right onto the tee is near impossible. Why? Because you have to have somebody just wants to build a standalone golf course. So if you build a standalone golf course and spend $10 to $20 million, you want to get some money back, right? So how do you get that? You got to get membership, and you got to have reviews, and the cost, and if there's a change in the economic cycle, there's going to be, disposable income is going to be shut down very, very quickly. So golf suffers to that degree. So we have to create the flexibility, create the financial awareness where we all don't get financially stressed out in bad situations. So when we build golf courses, that's what we think about across the board. And the more time you're in, the longer you're in the industry, like I've probably gone through 6 recessions, maybe 7, right? And the hardest one was 2008, 2009. The industry got hammered because in the 80s and 90s in this country, we were idiots. The golf course design business were idiots because we were over-leveraged. We thought we had unlimited capital. Everything was just money, 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 money. And they went out and built these golf courses. You should have spent $10 million on them. They spent $20 million. And the maintenance for each golf course was just through the roof. And going back to what I said about disposable income, as soon as that shut down when the economy hit, people remember that 3, 4, 5 golf courses dropped 3, 4 of those golf courses ended up with 1. Because their annual dues were probably a couple $100,000 a year. That's disposable income, right? They probably played 4 rounds of golf a year on each golf. So you got to try and educate everybody. That's a responsibility that I feel like is a huge burden, not only just on myself as an ex-player, but a person who wants to grow the game of golf, but also the person who wants to. All of us sitting up here today have been talking about how do we monetize what we have. All of us in the room here, how do we monetize what we have to get to the next level? That 25% that Maury was saying. How do we improve on that to get a little bit more of an uptick on it? Well, at the end of the day, our responsibility, quite honestly, is we look at the industry and grow the industry. How can we eliminate some of that? How can we, if we could, Verizon and I are thinking into the future. Verizon got a great product out there called AgTech. And in the vineyard business, they can save a vineyard anywhere between 15 and 18% annually on their overhead. I really want to bring this to the game of golf because of their technology and their innovation and what they've done in the wine industry. You've seen we can do the same in the golf industry. And you think about here in the United States, it's probably 15,000 golf courses around number. What's the average annual maintenance? $1 million a year, average. Something like that, maybe 800. That's rounded off. I believe that's a $15 billion industry. If we can save everybody 15 to 18% on your annual maintenance of your golf course, what does that do for everyone? More money in their pockets. So we all want to monetize things. I look at the other way. How can we save money rather than get golf at the same time?
You raise a great point, Greg, that titled this, we had a session yesterday about increasing revenue. As a businessman, you're focusing on increasing profit, which could be revenue or cost reduction. And your point, your point about the maintenance facility, the cost of the golf course are quite real. The other point I want to emphasize that you got to, we're doing a major restoration at Marion East, closing in December. Looking back over the archive, Hugh Wilson, who was the designer, made the point. He says, it's easy to build a course that's fun. It's easy to build a course that's really hard for a championship player. What's really, really hard is to build a course that is fun for the average golfer and at the same time a challenge for the great player. And I think Marion does that, but it's a chance, the point Greg makes a challenge. Jay, do we have time? Where are we? We're done?
Very close.
All right. Let me then finish with one question, and it may take a few minutes. When I was an academic at MIT, I was haunted by the adage, if you're so smart, stop talking and go do it. And I did. So I became an entrepreneur for most of my freshman period. So for each of you, if you owned a public mid-range golf course, not a $100 green fee, something in the mid-range golf course, what would you do, or at least consider doing, to get current golfers and customers playing more and spending more, or to acquire new golfers? I mean, just throw out one or two ideas that you would do. If you owned a course, right? If it was under your control, you owned a course, what are one or two things you would do to improve the business? We'll just go down to Maury.
First and foremost, I'd talk to my customers. The average golf course, you pay your money and you go out and play and you never hear from them again.
Great point.
Talk to your customers.
Customers go.
I couldn't agree more. In addition to that, use data to help you make decisions. I mean, the beauty of the digital space is that when you engage with your customers with digital, you have a ton of data. As I said, we take 50 million score postings a year. We believe in fostering innovation using that data. So know your customer.
The USGA right now is very, very focused on data.
We're making big investments in data capture and making data available to the industry.
Great.
I'll go back to what I said a couple minutes ago, cashless and connectivity.
There you go. Lance?
Say choose exceptional partners. You have a daunting challenge as a small business owner. One success key for the tour has always been to partner with great companies, whether it's in the sponsorship space. We took a long, hard look at if and how to enter the tee time space. We were enamored by EasyLinks, their technology, their focus on the course, the balance with the consumer. It's the same reason we partnered with Mr. Arthur Blank on PGA Tour Superstore. His expertise at Home Depot is exceptional. You guys have a big challenge, and partner with those who treat you as you want to be treated.
Yeah. You get the final word.
Final word. Well, so for what I would do, so I probably selfishly, because of the quality of my golf game, I would try to find a way to make it to develop people who want to golf but stink. And really there's a way to grow. And then again, I think there's a big audience that probably wants to golf, and we keep talking about how it's frustrating if things are slow, but it's also embarrassing to be the slow person. Those things are great. I think ways where you can develop ways to get people in, comfortable, and so when they're going out on the course, they feel good about it. That's.
Well, you make the point that we know in business, it costs a lot less to retain a customer than acquire a new customer. Sticker users, all that. Jay, why don't you come up? Let's close it out. But before that, let me ask all of you to a round of applause for our panelists. And Jay, here we are.
Using that casino metaphor, what fantastic insights from some high rollers placing big bets on golf technology. Seriously, we have some truly bullish people about golf right here, and it's about investors and entrepreneurs that make an economy work. So we should be thankful for their investments and the things that everybody's here is doing to move golf forward. So again, a round of applause for sponsors of this event. Thank you for going out on a limb with us. We really appreciate it. Again, it's been 19 years since we've been on this event. Your investment made this happen, and we appreciate it. So let's give a little bit of gratitude to all the folks who are here. speakers, thank you for the time that you put into presenting and sharing your knowledge with us. I'd like to say a special thank you to Allison George, Del Ratcliffe, and Mike Zisman for all that you did to help get this event going. We really appreciate it. Let's thank them as well. All of you in the room, we hope that you learned a great deal and that you made new friends and connections and you carried this back to your facilities. But we want this event to have a real cascading effect. We want you to be leaders in your market and do good things from what you're learning at this event. Our mission as an organization is to serve you by providing resources like this technology conference to help you run more profitable businesses. Now, our original plan was to host this event every 2 years, but we're getting some pretty consistent feedback that maybe that's waiting too long. So we're going to go back to the drawing board as a team and figure out what we're going to do, how often, where, and so forth. How do you guys like Las Vegas for this event? Well, we will keep you informed as to our future plans, certainly. But if you can't even wait a year, just as a reminder, we have the Golf Business Conference coming up in San Antonio, February 6th through the 8th. We look forward to seeing you there. And finally, I'd like to remind you about Top Golf tonight. The shuttles will be staged downstairs next to the main valet pickup. And you got to go down to the casino level. Head toward the burger lounge. So if you want to grab a burger, it's right there. The NGCA staff will be there to direct you. Shuttles begin loading at 5:30, but they're going to wait to fill up to head over. And I think we have 3 buses running. So, but when you're at Top Golf, make sure that you go through the bays, all the different sponsored bays. We'll have a little game for you and a contest as well. So all the golf course owners and operators, make your way through all the bays. The shuttles will be heading back to the hotel beginning at 9 p.m. So folks, thank you for being here. Have fun tonight, and we'll see you in San Antonio.